Hello, welcome to the Craven Chronicles, your go-to podcast to discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between supporting Fulham FC. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you for tuning in. But this is a very special episode because for the very first time, we're delighted to say, welcome to those watching on YouTube or listening. I tend to stick YouTube on and have it on the background, but if you're watching, welcome.
Good to see you. Yeah. We've actually got faces to our voices.
It's great. So we finally launched a YouTube channel. We've been saying we're going to do it for a while. Really exciting. It's going to be exactly the same as the podcast on Spotify, just visualized. And we're going to be doing more content, more like maybe match action and stuff like that. And as ever, joined by Oscar O'Kane. How are you, mate?
John, I'm good, mate. I'm excited. It is the big launch.
It is.
People can see our peppermint teas in the flesh now.
Yes,
the famous
exactly.
Peppermint teas.
They are as good as ever, I'm not going to lie. But look, in today's episode, we'll unfortunately be looking back on Sunday evening's slugfest as a devilish deflection extended Manchester United's winning run at Craven Cottage to 8 consecutive games. Horrible. We'll then turn our attention to Saturday's clash up at Tyneside as we take on Howe's high-flying Magpies. Look, this isn't going to be fun, I don't think, this segment. We're going to have to talk about Fulham 0, Manchester United 1. This was the lowest XG of any game in the last 2 seasons in the Premier League. And it was boring. I think sometimes as a fan, when you're so invested in a game, you kind of forget. You don't realise it's boring, you know, because you're not neutral. But even as a fan, I was thinking, Jesus, this is a tough watch. What are your thoughts?
It was a bit of a snooze fest at times, but yeah, lowest XG in the last 2 seasons. Oh my days. It was just such a rubbish watch. And I mean, we're going to dive into the match action soon. We had a couple of chances, but history repeated itself. I might as well have just rewatched tapes of the last 2 or 3 years United have turned up at the Cottage. It's just same old. And I left the ground and I got the customary message from all my Man United fans being like, oh, unlucky, mate. There's always next year, mate. And I just thought, absolutely raging at that result.
And it's the fact that we've played this United team twice now and lost 1-0 in both games we shouldn't have lost. Like this team, like they were 13th for this. They've climbed to the dizzying heights of 12th after that win. But that match was really a classic 10th v 13th, just absolute Sunday scaries that game. But let's try and discuss the match action. There wasn't much of it.
There isn't actually a lot to talk about, honestly.
Like first half, thought we were playing okay. A couple of pop shots, Iwobi positive. That's kind of it, really. And I was just like, I went for my customary pint. Left at 39 minutes.
Did you?
To beat the queues, went down the rivers. We were just like, it's a bit meh, wasn't it? And then second half, it was a little bit more kind of. You know, kick to life. I don't know, barely, but Bruno came close with a clever free kick.
I thought that gone in. From where I was sitting, I thought the net bulged, and a couple of the United fans started to celebrate, and it was like, whee! But yeah, that was the first half. I will say this though, in that display, we did what we have done a lot this season, where was passing the ball around nicely, nice little interchange. I thought Lukic was outstanding. There was that moment in the game where I think United were about to break away. Fernandes had the ball. Lukic sprints back, wins the ball, then beats Ugarte in the challenge and drives forward. Him and Sanderberg were really, really impressive in that first half. But yeah, second half, Jesus Christ, such a snooze fest.
But yeah, so I think the main talking point really for second half was Adama Traore coming on. I thought the game needed something, needed some like dynamism, and that's exactly what Adama brought. I thought it was weird. I don't know if you noticed this. He brought him on the left wing and moved him over to the right wing. Of course, Wilson limped off injured as well, which Silva said it's not too serious, but
that's good.
It's not ideal. But yeah, so I've always thought Iwobi, is better on the left and Adama's better on the right. So I was quite confused. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was confusing considering that in the last game when we beat Leicester, he put Adama on the right, and Adama scored on the right-hand side. On the right. And when he switched it round again, and Adama was playing on the right, going up against sort of Dalot, it was just like he was absolutely skinning him. The thing about Adama is, we have talked about this a lot on the pod. He is a frustrating player, but when he gets on the ball, everyone is up on their seats. Yeah. And the actually only positive highlight from the game I can think of was that moment when the ball went across the pitch, and him and Mazraoui are trying to get it, and he and it's looking like it's going out of play, but because he's like unbelievably rapid, then nudges Mazraoui off the pitch, wins the ball back and charges forward. And I just thought that was like a brilliant little bit of play from Adama. Like, he never gave up. And that was before United had even opened the scoring. But it was a case, again, it's been the story of our season, you and I were talking about before. We have a lot of the ball, create a couple of chances. I wouldn't say we created clear-cut, gilt-edged chances. I mean, obviously the second half, Anderson had that header cleared off the line. Raul had a really good chance, I think, in the first half. But I wouldn't say 3 or 4 times it was like a one-on-one and we absolutely scuffed it. But again, lacking real cutting edge up front, and it's been the story of our season.
Yeah. Well, there was an underlying narrative to this game when Adama did come on. If those remember when in the reverse fixture, when Martinez had a little spat with Adama and then had a little bit of afters on Instagram. Yeah. But Martinez in his post-match says like, "Oh, I sent him back to the gym." Traore then said, "See you, we'll meet again." The words to that effect.
Let's be honest.
They met again.
Yeah, let's be honest. If Adama and Lissandro are doing like a strength test, Adama's cooking him, isn't he? Let's be honest.
I mean, Martinez is saying that behind the projection of the TNT, studio thing.
Shocking.
But he absolutely bodied him a couple of times. It's hilarious. Like, do you think he could have seen red for his Martinez's challenge on Adama?
Yeah, because I saw there was a little bit of afters between him and Adama.
Well,
I mean, Martinez, they've got that history there.
He went in like 2-footed and then came off injured.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's hilarious.
Just shows you how strong Adama is. He could have seen red, but I don't know. It's one of the... Well, to be fair, after the couple of the decisions that we've seen this weekend, certain Miles Lewis Skelly, I mean, that could have been a red card.
Yeah, I don't know.
He just jumped in and didn't win the ball and completely took Adama out. But I don't know. I don't think the ref was ever going to give that a red card.
Well, while we're talking about Martinez,
yep,
he then gets the ball on the edge of the box, takes their first shot on target, by the way. It is a limp, pea-rolling effort. Maybe not quite, but you know what I mean. And then Sasha, we love him. He tries to block it, does the right thing, but just takes an absolutely
wicked deflection.
I said devilish deflection in the intro. It was like just spooned over Leno, sent the United away fans into raptures, and it's just like, oh god, it's just like deja vu again.
I will say credit to the United away end. I thought they were really good away fans, like constantly singing throughout the whole game. Like, even though Amorim and they have been so bad this season, I thought they were in really good spirits. But
United fans are good. Like,
really good.
I find even the home support, they don't tend to get on the manager's back, even though they pretty rightly could. And their away support's always good, but yeah, they're just so annoying.
It was just like it was just same old. And I was saying to my dad, we're having a lot of the ball, kind of dominating the midfield. I thought that the biggest talking point was who was going to win the midfield battle. Sanderberg and Sasa Lukic, or Bruno Fernandes and Manuel Ugarte. And I thought that we won the midfield battle. In my honest opinion, I thought that we did throughout the 90 minutes. But it's, again, so typical. It was the most Man United goal. Like, Martinez. I mean, I will say this, though. Credit to Martinez for just taking on that shot. Like, okay, he probably was thinking it was a wild speculative effort, probably was going to go miles over. But again, if you don't even try and attempt to make an effort, you're never going to score. And that was the problem with Fulham. We had so many opportunities. Even Tom Kenny, there was a moment when he had the ball in a lot of space. We've seen it time and time again that he's done it. 25 yards out on his left foot, whips it into the top corner. And we just didn't shoot. It was just like we were crying out for someone to just get the ball, just take a shot. As you saw with Martinez, it could take a deflection, it could go in. But it was so frustrating. I mean, credit to Martinez. He took it on, took a huge deflection. United probably needed a bit of that luck. Huge for Ruben Amorim as well to get back-to-back wins for them after they just about beat Rangers in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Big result for them. And it was their only, as you said, their only shot on target. It was their only shot on target the whole game. And I just thought, such a shock. And then obviously Ahmad scored that late goal that was disallowed for offside. But actually, I didn't even see that. When Ahmad scored, I got out of my seat. I walked out with my dad. I just thought, I can't be watching this. And then obviously rightly ruled out for offside by VAR.
I feel terrible admitting this, but I also left. I was like, I was so pissed off. I was just like, let me just get out of here. You touched on something there actually. Martinez taking a risk. Yeah, we just didn't take enough risks. We're playing it so safe. Just thing is, if you're analysing this Fulham team as an opposition, you know what we're going to try and do. Try and play it out the left, Robinson and Iwobi, then you're going to try and do something, then you're going to play it back some field, go to the right, and just maybe put in a hopeful ball, and then have Muniz or Raul kind of flounder. It's just so predictable. Incredibly frustrating. And then, of course, late on, Roddy Moon's late chance. I don't know what he's trying to do. He sort of scuffs it into the ground. Like he has. It's not the easiest chance, but Premier League striker, you need to be testing the keeper there, and it probably goes in.
We don't have world-class strikers. That's the thing. We do not have clinical finishers. Like I love Rodrigo, I love Raul, and Raul when he's on his day, everything he touches is gold dust. But those days are too inconsistent. It's the difference between the mid-table teams and the teams that are fighting. Like their attacking players, week in, week out, show consistency. Whereas ours, this season, I will say, have been a bit in and out. Like, okay, Iwobi played well again, and Robinson was obviously good. And Wilson, even before he got injured, hopefully speedy recovery for him, didn't really do that much. A lot of sort of playing the safe ball, let's pass it around. But we just don't have those players. We do not have clinical strikers. And it's been something that has really held us back, I think, this season. And we're gonna get onto our wider context of our league position, but we've really, really suffered. We do not have wingers or strikers that are getting you 15, 16 goal contributions a season.
Well, yeah, let's move on to it. Do we need a number 9 as one of the questions we've raised? And I'm kind of wary of like contradicting myself each week, kind of thing. I think against Leicester, I was like, after that Leicester game, I was like, I like Rodrigo and Raul as 2 striking options. I still stand by that. But I think if you want to finish mid-table, kind of like that sort of 14th to 10th bracket, they're absolutely fine. And I think Raul is a very good option as like a kind of rotation striker. Don't want to be relying on him.
That's the problem.
I think, so as I was saying though, I think if you want to finish kind of where we are now, we're fine. But if we want to push on for Europe, which is our next question really, we need to spend big on a striker. Simple as that.
I completely agree. And actually, if we take it out of the bigger context, the wider context of the game, if I'm going to talk about it from a Man United perspective as well, you look at them and they've been struggling this season. And you look at their attacking options. And Harland, 70 million, was rubbish the other night. Absolutely. The number of times he gave the ball away, and I think that on Match of the Day they touched on it as well. His hold-up play was shocking. Yeah. Joaquin Manderson, who we might touch on a bit later, had him in his pocket, I thought, the entire game. And again, if you're looking from United's perspective in terms of, like, as I said earlier, in terms of the mid-table cluster to the top 6 Champions League cluster, their striking options, their attacking options are not good enough. Like Harland, Xerxes comes off the bench, doesn't do anything. It's the same with Fulham. Like Jimenez comes off, Muniz comes on, doesn't really do much. And we need players who are going to come on and make an impact. And Wilson has been our star man this season. But we can't solely just rely on him. The accountability and the shared responsibility has to be spread out across the attacking options. And we don't have that at this moment in time. And at this moment in time, good old Gary Neville there.
Too much G-Nev, mate.
But we just don't have that. Yeah. And that is why, in my honest opinion, I don't think that the lid is completely shut. But I look at a team like Bournemouth, I look at Villa, who've got quality attacking players. And that's why I don't think that we are going to make Conference League football this season. I'm not even asking for Europa League. I just don't think we're going to make Europe this season.
Yeah, well, let's move on to the European debate. Just quickly on the sort of attackers, though. It's so true. Like, I feel like with Raul and Muniz, like, they're not that clinical. So that's fine. They're good link-up players. So then if you have clinical wingers, then that works. But we don't. Like, Iwobi's got good numbers this year. So does Wilson. But they're too inconsistent in front of goal. And their all-round play is excellent, but they're not going to get you kind of double figures goals each season. Whereas you look at like Bournemouth, who are flying, you look at like Semenyo, Kluivert, and even a Dinga, they score goals as strikers. They have Evan Nilsson, who kind of links the play. That works. And we just don't seem to have that. So I think we need to sign big.
Exactly. And Evan Nilsson has been injured, and Bournemouth have not suffered. Whereas if Raul was injured for the season and we had Rodrigo Muniz starting up front or etc., we would suffer because we do not have players that we can replace in that position. Like you look at Bournemouth, are a great example. Bournemouth, I'll give them a huge praise this season. They've been absolutely sensational. Iraola's done a superb job. If they get European football, they totally deserve it. But as you mentioned, they've got Kluivert, they've got Atara, they've got Semenyo, they've got Brooks, they've got Evan Nilsson. They've got loads of really, really good, well-run players. Whereas, no disrespect to Adama, who again was excellent against United, but we lose Wilson or we lose Raul, we're putting on Muniz. You cannot tell me that Muniz is a better player than Semenyo or a better player than Atara or a better player than Kluivert. He isn't. Like, that is just stating the obvious. And that's why these kind of clubs have good attacking options. You look at Brentford, our biggest rivals, and Mbeumo and Wissa, absolutely deadly, absolutely ruthless. If we had Mbeumo and Wissa in the Fulham team, we'd be flying up the table. We'd be in such a better position than we are now. But we don't kill off teams. It's happened time and time and time again this season. And that's why we are going to suffer. And I probably think that ultimately now we're going to finish, realistically mid-table. And another thing I want to touch on as well is we've now failed to score. It's the second time this season we failed to score at home. Last time was against Southampton. First time we've lost a home game, though, impressively since November when we lost to Aston Villa. So it's not all doom and gloom. But I just think that, we do not have quality attacking players. And that is the difference between your mid-table level and your top six fighting for European level.
We've got Nelson coming back soon, should be positive. But again, not great player, but just not clinical right now. So speaking about our form, so this kind of touch on our European aspirations. I'm really worried that we're not going to get it, and the reason being, we struggle against lower half sides. And this is hilarious. I'm saying this. We played it. United are a lower half side. They're still in the bottom half of the table. I've got some stats for you if you like.
Honestly, read them out.
So this season we've played 10 times against teams currently above us, 14 times against teams currently below us. Above us, we've won 4, drawn 4, lost 2. And bearing in mind we've played more games against teams below us, we've also won 4, drawn 6, lost 4 against the bottom half sides. And that sums it up, doesn't it? Like, we're going to get onto Newcastle in the next section, but we'll probably go up and win there. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I was happy with the Leicester win, because that's exactly the kind of game we struggle with, and they've just bloody beaten Spurs. So,
exactly.
That for me is the reason why we don't do it. We touched on the lack of clinical forwards, but it's just, the lack of ruthlessness against when we're dominating games. I think at times we were dominating Sunday.
I still think that we have a long-term hangover from Mitrovic. Mitrovic was class.
Can you imagine Mitro in this team, man?
That's the thing. I mean, whatever we want to say about Mitro, and to be fair, my schoolmates, they always used to tease me a lot, being like, you love Mitrovic, but like, come on, he scored over 100 goals for the club. He was insanely good. He'd walk into most teams, I do think. Not the elite teams, not like the Liverpools and the Champions League teams, but definitely the teams who are fighting for Europe. Kind of like the West Hams, or even the Villas, maybe, of the world. We haven't replaced him. That is the honest truth. Raul has been great in spells, and 5 million is a bargain. Rodrigo has shown glimpses, but we have not replaced Mitrovic. And I know that in the Premier League, there were maybe the odd season he struggled, but in the season before he left, he was doing really well for us. Up until the point that he left for Saudi, he was doing superbly well for us. And he's a kind of Marco Silva kind of player. And you look at Marco's career, he thrives on big man strikers. He's had it at Watford with Troy Deeney. He's had it across numerous spells at lots of different clubs that he's had that. And we really suffer. And if Fulham want to show serious promise this season and for seasons to come, we've got to go out there and get proper strikers, because we just haven't replaced Mitrovic.
Well, we're linked with Evan Ferguson still, which even if we get take him on loan as an obligation to buy, I think he's pretty good.
He's not coming. I don't think he is. I think he'll either go to West Ham or he might go abroad. I heard a rumour I saw this morning. He might be going to Marseille. He obviously would go. He picked Marseille over Fulham any day of the week. Marseille are in European positions, massive football club. To get the opportunities as well to play under De Zerbi, I don't think he'd say no to Marseille.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. A couple more talking points. Joachim Andersen. Since he's come back from it, I thought he was excellent when at the start of the season.
Yep.
When he first came into the side, and then he got that injury. I just think something's off with him. I think his passing in particular, like yesterday, that's his kind of forte, isn't it? There's raking passes, weren't landing, and then even like simple passes to Bassi, he was kind of spooning them, and like a hospital pass. Well, it's cool. Do you think should be dropped? What do you make of him?
I do agree with you on the passing. I do think, though, he marshalled Harland very well. Now, look, Harland, he hasn't found his feet in the Premier League yet. He's young, he's raw, he needs a bit of time. But I thought Andersen, who is his Danish compatriot,
of course,
thought he marshalled him incredibly well. I mean, every time the ball came into Harland, Andersen stuck it straight on him, won the ball back, played it to Castagna, played it to Bassi. But I do agree with you, some of his passing is not quite the passing range that we've seen earlier. Like, one thing I used to love about Andersen, especially when he was in his first loan spell at the club, his ability to pick up the ball and spread a diagonal 60 yards to our wingers. Ability to get the ball, take a pass, cut out 3 or 4 players in a team, give it to Lukic or Berg, who can spin, or Andreas, to get the attack flowing. But I think the biggest, and I do think that Diop definitely has been decent this season. But I think maybe for Fulham, looking ahead to the summer, even though I know we're still in January and we've still yet to sign anyone, maybe we do need to start bringing another quality centre back just to give Anderson a little bit of encouragement, give him a little bit of a, like, you know, your position is not secure. We're going to be signing all these other players. You need to fight for your place. Maybe he's too secure. Maybe he thinks I'm undroppable. The fact that Diop showed great form and then Anderson immediately replaced him, maybe it's gone to his head a bit. But I do still rate Joachim. I think he is a brilliant player, and I would still stick with him, even though he has had a bit of a dip recently and he needs a bit of time.
Well, we could even just dropping him for a game, just to, as you said, like say, look, your place is not tenable. I do agree with that. And final topic I wanted to touch on, interesting to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
We spoke about it briefly, the ticket situation for United. It's like £160 for some seats in the Riverside, which is just ridiculous.
Scandalous.
As expected, these actually weren't around me. I didn't really notice too much. I'd be interested to hear what it was like in Riverside. But where I was in Hammersmith, I didn't actually notice many United fans. Apparently there were quite a few.
So basically there were a couple of United fans in front of me, and then when Martinez scored, they got escorted out of the stand.
It's infuriating.
But yeah, look, I sit in the Riverside stand, so I can get this kind of take. Now I'm very lucky because my dad pays for my season ticket. I you know, and it is very expensive, and you know, my dad's etc. So I feel I'm incredibly lucky and privileged. But to the majority of Fulham fans who cannot afford these tickets, it isn't fair, because you're pricing out proper football fans. And the United fans are right to call it out. And we saw earlier on in the day that Fulham Supporters Trust released a statement complaining about the ticket prices. And you mentioned last week that in this same fixture we had a year before, we had the yellow cards. Yeah. We did our little sort of quiet protest. But it isn't good enough. And I just think, as I said last week, at what point is the profit... I mean, is it really worth it if you're pricing out all our proper football fans, the proper Fulham fans? And that's not me trying to say I don't want tourist fans to come. Of course, we want to grow the club, we want to expand it globally. But to the extent that you are removing fans that have supported this club for 40, 50, 60 years, I just don't think that it's good enough. And I get that the Premier League, yes, the wages involved, yes, the money that's involved. I get all of that, and I know that the stand is going to be generating 40 million a year, which is great. But at what cost? Do we really need all of that? And I know that our stand looks great and I like being there, and you know, the beers are great, and we've got all these little kind of half price discounts that we had. Like I got a round of pints in for £6 and it's like, okay, it's all rosy. But it doesn't, that's, you know, putting like soil on the top, you know, that's not covering, it's covering up the actual underlying issue of these tickets are way too expensive.
The thing is, I have absolutely no issue with like tourists coming for a game, like completely up to you. But my issue is when it's at the expense of fans, like, yeah, as you say, fans have been going for years. And also, like, season tickets, I'd say on the whole are, like, fairly reasonable, like, relative to the Premier League. Like, I pay, like, 600 and odd quid to sit in Hammersmith, which I think it works out to about £35 a game, which is actually fine. But let's say, for example, like, if you can't go to every game, so you don't get a season ticket, and you just want to get tickets to your game, it means if you're going with, like, a family, you're looking at, like, 400 quid. Just to go watch them, to watch that, by the way, watch that absolute snooze fest.
Yeah, and also it's not like we're in the Champions League or we're in the Europa League. I mean, even if we were in the Champions League, those prices are still astronomical. The fact that you can go and watch Real Madrid for cheaper is just it's just like, it's unbelievable. The fact you can watch like Mbappe, Bellingham, Vinicius, some of the best players in world football, and you're paying 160 quid to watch, you know. I don't know, Adama, like, you know, it's just like, come on.
Worth it.
You know what I mean? Like, well, or like, you know, Maguire, no disrespect. But it's like, come on, really? Is that really, really worth it? And, you know, a few weeks ago, actually, for New Year's, I went to a National League game and the ticket was like 13 quid. And yes, okay, the standard of football isn't as exciting, but there were goals and there were moments, and I went with a few mates and it was a really fun day out. And that was £13 and it was worth it. Whereas £160 to watch that drivel. It's not worth it at all.
Fundamentally, though, well, actually, just on that, I saw for the £160, you could have flown to Milan, watched Milan at San Siro, and stayed overnight or something ridiculous like that. But just
insanity.
My biggest issue is that, okay, let's say you're Alice McIntosh. You see him, by the way, in the cottage with Infantino.
Oh my God! Jesus. Why also seeing Infantino?
What's he doing, mate?
What's he doing? He's doing the rounds. He's gone from the inauguration. He's gone to the cottage. Like, he gets around.
That sums up the kind of like the kind of company McIntosh is keeping. That kind of, I think that sums him up as a character. Look, if your sole goal is to make loads of money, then crack on, Alice McIntosh. Like, keep doing what you're doing. But I feel like running a football club is kind of a unique business because it's like a community. And what you're doing is you're sucking the soul out of Craven Cottage, and the atmosphere is really not been great this season at all. I think the away support is much better because you kind of got that kind of 3,000 core fans that love the club. And also, we'll probably get let's be realistic here. We'll probably get relegated in the next 5 to 10 years. Like that's just the way like football works, unfortunately. And where are all those? So you're making all this money off like day trippers and tourists. They're not coming from Preston. From like, Huddersfield.
Weird to say Preston because they're not just out of the country. Just get a little jibe in there. I agree with you. Like, tourists are not going to come to watch Fulham play, I don't know.
In the shiny new stands.
Well, maybe a couple of Americans, to be fair. But I do agree with you. Look, I will say on the Alistair McIntosh note, I do think, though, as a CEO, he has... Like, I do agree with you in some respects, things could have been done differently. I do think overall as a CEO, since he's come to the club, he's done a decent job. I mean, look at where we are now compared to what we were 5 years ago. He has really done well. I know he's been at the club for a long time, and I do think that him and Marco have worked quite well. But I do agree with you. This ticket price issue is huge, and we're not the only clubs that are suffering from it. Clubs up and down the country are suffering from this problem, and it's ruining our beautiful game. And I don't really get it. And you're absolutely right. If we get relegated, I mean, I hope we don't. I want Fulham to be a team that, like the Palace of nowadays, where we are in the Premier League for the next 5, 10, 15 years. But you're right. We could have an off-season. Marco could go. We don't replace him. Poor recruitment. We get relegated. And then what happens to all of those fans? The Championship. And the amount of money that we're going to lose out on. And the club could really spiral. So it's like we're always living on an edge here. And it'll be really interesting to see what we do. But I obviously think that I do think doing the development of the Riverside stand ultimately has been a good thing because stand, I sat there many, many years and it did need huge refurbishment and it was good to expand because we want to be, as the club, we want to be moving forward and expanding, but at what cost? To get rid of our hardcore Fulham fans? I mean, I don't think it's been good enough, really.
The new stand, I think it's a really good idea, like non-match day revenue. And also, I don't actually have an issue. There's I think it's the most expensive non-hospitality season ticket, £3,000. I don't actually have an issue with that because you're extending the stadium, you're increasing the capacity, and it's a tiny section. And if you want to pay £3,000 for a season ticket, I think it's a great way of making money, as long as it's not at the expense of season ticket holders, which unfortunately I think it kind of is. But look, if we want to, well, actually, I mentioned this last week, but Brentford. Say what you like about them. They have got it spot on their ticket. They're capped away tickets at £10, which to essentially attract. That their aim is to garner a new fan base.
Exactly, and they will do that.
They will do that.
They'll be successful.
Exactly. So the reason I'm a Fulham fan is because my dad my dad's never supported a football team, and he was like looking for something to me and my brother to do. I think I was like 7 at the time. My brother was a bit older. And he was like, just looking online, and go to Fulham, it's nearby, it's like reasonably priced. So we went there and then never looked back. And that is what people are going to do with Brentford. Like dads, their sons and daughters, whatever, and they're gonna go to the other side of West London.
I completely agree. That's kind of how I've lived in Fulham most of my life, and me and my dad. That's how it all started. It was like let's go to the Fulham game, reasonably priced. We're watching a exciting game. We're playing really big, when the great Arsenal, Man United teams of back in the day. It's exciting to go and watch, looking at some of the players, Ronaldos and Scholeses and Rooneys of the world. But nowadays it's just sort of, and I think it's sucked the enjoyment out of football because fans, the thing is we're always going to stay loyal to our clubs. We're always going to go, but when you look at the situation now, if you're like us, you're an 8-9-year-old growing up in West London, maybe you'd rather go to QPR. It's a bit cheaper. Championship. Maybe you could see them in the future going back. Maybe you go to Brentford. Maybe you're not going to Fulham as much because of these prices. And Chelsea, it's like, okay, it's expensive, but Chelsea are playing in Europe. Chelsea have been in the Champions League. Chelsea have all these world-class football players, whereas Fulham are not quite at that level. So our prices, we're behaving like a top 6 club when we're not a top 6 club. So
I completely agree.
Look, anyway, let's rant over. Let's move on to next week's game, as you just touched on. Newcastle away, St James's Park, a fixture I do not think that we've had very great success on. Actually, a fixture, I don't think that we've won. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've won at St James's Park since 2017 in the Championship. And I remember that because Ryan Sessegnon scored a brace and put in an absolutely stellar performance. And that was in that season when I think Newcastle won the league and we got promoted through the playoffs. And I remember the first game of the season, God, this is a throwback. We played Newcastle. We won 1-0. Matt Smith scored.
Yeah,
it was Newcastle's first game since they got relegated from the Premier League. So
yeah, well, I'm looking at
a shocking record.
You are right. That's the last time we beat them at St James's Park, 11th of March. Was that when Tim Ream took the pen instead of Sessegnon?
Yep.
So, yeah, what the hell's that about? That was the season we got knocked out to Reading, I think, in the playoffs. The season
and they had that horrible dodgy penalty, which obviously was not a penalty. Anyway,
but our record against Newcastle is nick so good. We beat them earlier in the season.
Great performance. That's actually probably been our best performance of the season.
Yeah, 3-1 home win, but that was the first time we'd beaten them. Before that, we'd had a 6-game losing streak and a 9-game winless streak. So it's not a great record. And I've got to say, they look really good. 7 wins in 8. Isaac, 17 goals, 5 assists, 13 goals in his last 10. I'm a bit worried.
Do you think that Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton and Tonali, do you think that's the best midfield three in the Premier League right now? Just on form?
It's up there. Liverpool's is pretty good.
Liverpool's is very, very good.
I'll tell you what, in a different way of phrasing it, like which Premier League midfield do I fear the most? Probably them, because they're just going to bully you. They've got the technicality, and Joe Linton's going to commit GBH on you. You know, it's
also one player that has gone under the radar I think this season, Tonali, since he's come back. He's like the orchestra. He conducts that midfield with clever flicks, clever passes. Been brilliant for Italy when he's come back in the squad. Obviously he did have that ban. And then you've got complementing with Joe Linton, energetic, never stops running, bit of a bully, proper upper body strength, can just nudge people off the ball. And then Bruno Guimaraes, silky, tidy, can hit a long ranger, he's like an all-rounding midfielder. So they complement each other really, really well. And Newcastle, obviously we can talk about Isak. Isak, I think, is the best striker in the Premier League right now, but Anthony Gordon has been exceptional. I think defensively as well, Sven Botman's come back into the team, they look really good. But the one thing I would say to this game is we are playing them, obviously, in next week, but then they've got Arsenal in the second leg of the Carabao Cup. So they might have one eye on that game, because arguably you could say that is one of the biggest games in Newcastle's history. They are 2-0 up. I do think they're going to get to the final. And obviously they did reach the final and lost to Man United two or 3 years ago, I think. Now they lost. How did they lose to that Ten Hag United team? I still don't know. Because I remember they played really well in that game. They had Karius in goal. I remember that because Nick Pope got sent off against Liverpool. So they had to play Karius in goal. But obviously this time I think it'll be a bit different. So they might have one eye on that game. Maybe they could be a bit distracted. They might make a couple of changes.
Bit of rotation maybe, Maybe.
Newcastle, they've been superb this season. Eddie Howe, just when you thought people were starting to doubt him and saying, is he the man to take Newcastle forward? Is he all of that? And obviously I know that they suffered a heavy defeat to Bournemouth recently, in their last home game 4-1.
That can happen.
But that can happen, and Bournemouth can blow teams away. They blew Forest 5-0. I mean, unbelievable. And Forest, we've been acting lyrical about them the whole season.
That point against Bournemouth looks quite good now.
It does.
It's like 2-2 draw.
It does. But St James's Park, brilliant atmosphere there. Got some fantastic fans. They are a club on the rise. But looking ahead to that game,
from a Fulham perspective,
I'd be happy with a draw.
Yeah, I was going to say. From a Fulham perspective though, like, this is the kind of game we'll play well at because when a team's kind of giving it to us and like putting the pressure on, and that seems to be when we thrive. We struggle against the lower teams like Man United. Just wanted to get that in there. Do you know what I mean?
We're so bitter.
No, but I just think this game could be one we'll be good at. I mean, I don't think we'll win, to be honest. But I think we could get a result. I don't see why not. But how do you see this game from a Fulham perspective? What do you reckon?
3-1 Newcastle. I don't trust. I think defensively, we're fine. But Castagno against Gordon, I'm not sure. Isak, so good. Electric. And even Jacob Murphy. I know some people can argue. He has been class recently for Newcastle. He's gone under the radar, and I think their front three will be too much. But I get what you mean. I would not be surprised if we turn up on Saturday and it's a 3:00 kickoff and we go like sort of 2-0 up or something. We play well. Because Newcastle, they love pushing forward, and we're quite good at counter-attacking.
I think that favours us, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what lineup he plays. I think Adama has to start this game because I think this is the game of the counter-attack. We've got to sit back, soak up the pressure from Newcastle. They're gonna have the ball. They're gonna dictate it. It'd be interesting to see who Eddie Howe plays. Will he go for the Trippier? Will he go for the Livramento option? But I think we have to sit back and try and counter with pace. Smith Rowe, Iwobi. Maybe this could be a game for Muniz as well. Adama, try and get into the game. But yeah, and obviously last season as well. You've mentioned there Raul's red card.
Yeah.
How was that a red card?
So weird. I don't know. Because again, we talk about consistency. There was one this weekend. I forget who did it.
Lewis Skelly?
No. It was where someone. It wasn't given, or like I don't think a foul was given.
Enciso on Endo.
Enciso, yeah. Like it was identical to that one, yeah. But hey, referees and inconsistency, it's match made in heaven, is it?
What are your predictions? Could be a draw.
I might go for a 1-1.
1-1.
I'll take that, by the way.
Yeah.
But lineups as well. Yeah, you kind of touched on your lineup a bit. Shall I run through mine and you see if you agree or disagree? Like obviously Leno, Castagna. I'm getting big Issa in there. I'm getting Diop. I think Anderson needs like a bit of a reality check maybe.
Walk down a peg or two potentially.
Exactly, yeah.
Fine.
Because what does it say if you're not playing at your A game and you've got a guy behind you who's done nothing wrong? I think it's like sends a good message to go like, look, here's your chance, lad. Bassi, Robinson, obviously, Berger, Lukic, Cam. I'd give Smith Rowe another start. I think
definitely. I thought he was decent against United. He was all right.
He didn't set the world alight, but he was fine. And then I think Wilson, assuming he's injured, I'd probably start Adama anyway. He deserves a start, and then Raul and Iwobi. Do you disagree with that?
I agree. That would be my team. Maybe the Anderson Diop one, slight question mark. I'm not sure. Fair. Who do I think is going to? I just think Isak would cook Diop, whereas I think Anderson's a little bit more. Don't know. I just think Anderson is overall slightly better than Issa. But if he dropped him for Diop, I wouldn't be wholly against it. This is not a game for Josh King. I don't think we need a Sanderberg and Lukic. We need some heavyweights in that midfield to try and deal with. We've got to try and upset that midfield. We've got to. I think the biggest thing that we have to do against Newcastle, we've got to not let Tonali completely dictate and run that midfield because he's a dangerous player when he gets on the ball. He is so good. I can see Tonali. Tonali is a player who I think he could turn out to be. If he stays in the Premier League, maybe he might leave Newcastle. I don't know. Who knows? It depends how. Obviously we know that Newcastle, their owners, have got huge ambitions for the club. But Tonali, he could, as Harry Redknapp said, he could go right to the very top. Tonali. But
he's only 24 as well.
He is only 24, and he was probably AC Milan's best player when they won the Scudetto. What was it, 3 or 4 years ago now? Yeah. So. They've got an abundance of quality in that Newcastle team, but I think a draw would be a great result. If we win it, it would be a brilliant result. But we've just been so inconsistent this season. I wouldn't be surprised if we got something out of the game, but I can't see it happening.
Look, couple of transfer updates just before we leave as well. Yeah, well, I mean, believe it or not, apparently,
is it Willian?
Oh well. We speak about that as well, but
we can't take Willian back, John. I love Willian. He was so good. He's 35. No, no. We can't have Willian back.
A bid that is apparently real. St Johnstone have accepted Fulham's third offer for their 16-year-old striker Brody Dare. So there we go. Exactly.
Brody Dare.
He's like a 16-year-old talent for St Johnstone, so brilliant. That's what we need.
Great. Yeah, he'll take us to Europe.
Here we go.
Well, look, he could be a super talent. Yeah. I don't know. He's only 16.
One for the academy, wasn't it?
One for the future.
One that's more exciting. Fulham are lining up January move for Serbian striker Dusan Jahanovic.
Who? Jahanovic.
Sorry. Oh God, I've absolutely butchered that pronunciation. The Juventus striker.
Do you know what? You said Serbian striker and I thought, Mitro? Oh, Dusan Vlahovic. Do you mean?
No.
The Juve striker?
No, not Juve, sorry. Oh, God, I'm sorry everyone who are watching. I've absolutely butchered this.
That's fine.
Sorry, not Juve. I got confused. It's a black and white striper kit, so I just instantly assumed Juve.
Oh, right, I see.
Let me find that.
Well,
right.
Maybe, but, well...
Slight issue. I'm on this article, it's in Serbian.
Oh, dear. Not a good start. Look, I think Or maybe he'll come in and he can cook. I don't know. I feel like we need to go and sign a player who knows how to score in the Premier League. Premier League pedigree player. I don't know. And, anyway, and even can I say something as well? Like Ipswich signed in Ciso. Why are we not signing in Ciso? I don't understand that.
We don't need a cam.
Well, I know, but it's just like another little option. Just flesh out the squad a little bit more.
We're also linked with fullback Bright Asai Samuel.
Oh, the ex-QPR player.
From Fenerbahce. So.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
He could be good.
I was saying to you before, like, it would be a deadline day, 1 minute to midnight, Danny Ings on loan.
Just because he scored twice against us this season, it will be Danny Ings.
Although they need a striker at the moment, so they'll probably keep him. But do you know what I mean? Just that kind of ilk of flair is just so classic, isn't it? But apart from that, I'll be honest, like, I've absolutely butchered that striker link, but I'm clutching at straws with transfer news.
I don't know a lot about him. Hopefully he comes in and he's good. I can't really take an analysis on that, but we need to sign players. I mean, it's like stating the complete obvious, but we just need players who can put the ball in the back of the net. Like, imagine, I bet you will sign like Bamford or something from Leeds or something stupid like that.
Lyndon Dykes.
Lyndon Dykes. Anyway, it's just, it's not good enough. And look, I want us to, maybe, I don't know, maybe we got a couple of youth talents who could be future superstars in this striking department. I don't know, but our lack of profligacy up front is the fundamental reason that we will not make Europe this season.
We should do a GoFundMe to get the King Alexander Mitrovic back home.
We need
just
him back.
A little whip round, 60 million quid.
He's wasting away in Saudi. Like, come on,
Saudi.
You know what? It's not competitive.
He loves it out there. I've seen videos. He goes absolutely mental. Like, he's scoring against like literal like taxi drivers and farmers and stuff. Like, and then he's going absolutely mental. That bloke just loves scoring goals. He doesn't care. Like, if he's playing football in his garden with his kids, he'll be like doing knee slides. You know what I mean?
He's living the dream. He's getting paid a fortune and scoring against like. Probably idiots. Like, it's such the only difficult team and two difficult teams in that league. Well, he plays for Al Hilal.
Yeah, they're class, aren't they? Yeah.
And then I mean, that's it really. It's not a competitive league at all. So, I'd love it if Mitro came back. But I'm sort of wondering as well. Are there any Championship strikers who have been cooking this season that maybe we could be trying to bring in? I mean, I sometimes think that's a really underrated market that we should be looking at. As I said, I think I said this a few months ago. Like, a lot of the top players that we see in the Premier League. They made their trade in the EFL, like the Ollie Watkins of the world. Like, maybe we do need to sign a top-level championship striker that can turn up in the Premier League and maybe he can go up another notch and take Fulham to the next level. But, it's typical Fulham. We haven't signed anyone. It's the 28th of January. It will be, as you predicted, deadline day, a couple of loan deals of players I've never heard of, and that'll be that. And we'll probably finish mid-table fodder, so... It is such a shame because I do think that when you're on top and when you're doing so well, you've got to capitalise on these moments. We're not going to have Marcus Silva forever. This team may not be as good as it is now. We could be, in a few years' time, looking at a team that's going to be 14th, 15th with no chance of Europe. But when you're in a good moment and when you are winning games and when you have a manager like Marcus Silva, these are the opportunities where you've got to go out on the market and make big signings, statement signings. And clubs, we've seen loads of clubs who are in a good moment with a good manager, then they haven't quite made the recruitment. I mean, the biggest example I can think of is that Tottenham team under Pochettino, lost in Champions League final, but clearly there's something there. Then that summer, they spend the least amount of money of all the 20 Premier League clubs, and they look at how they suffered post that Champions League final defeat. So Fulham, you've got to strike while the iron's hot, and we've failed to do that over the years. And I think that if we don't, we will live to regret that. Well, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you as ever to my co-host John.
Thank you, mate. Not the best game to start off our YouTube with, but
nope.
It's been fun. It's been good nonetheless.
Absolutely. Those listening on Spotify, thank you so much for tuning in. And those streaming on YouTube, thank you for watching, you absolute legends. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us 5 stars, like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on so you never miss an episode. Join us next week to review Saturday's trip to St James's Park, and then we'll be diving into our away day trip to Wigan in the 4th round of the FA Cup, a competition that we really need to be putting a lot of eggs in our basket. We also may have time to look ahead to our home clash against Nottingham Forest. That'll be a good one. But as always, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and as always, up the Fulham.